Here are the 5 ways to move from one house to another. And I'm not talking about the logistics of moving your actual things from one house to another, as far as hiring a moving company or renting a U-Haul. What I'm talking about is the logistics surrounding buying a house and selling a house, basically at the same time. It doesn't have to be on the same day, but making that transition from selling a house into buying a house. There's really 5 different ways to do that, and I'm gonna go into them with you now. My name is Mike Riches. I've been a realtor in Delaware for 15 years. I'm also licensed in Pennsylvania. And here's what I've learned about the transitions from one house to another. Now I'm gonna go in depth in all of these, from the easiest way to do it to the hardest way to do it. As always, if you have any questions about any of these things regarding this subject, or frankly any real estate subject, or anything about Delaware for that matter, please give me a call. My number is right here. I'm always around to help. Okay, so the first way is by far the easiest way, which is to buy a house while you still own your house. Now, this could be difficult just financially more than anything, because you'd have to find out from a loan officer, from a mortgage company, to see if you can actually qualify for buying another home while still owning yours. Obviously, not only the down payment needed to buy another house, but also as far as your loan to value, to see if you make enough money based on the debt you have to be able to afford to qualify to purchase another house or take out a loan on that house. So this way, obviously, you have the comfort of living in your own house. You look for a house, you find one, you buy it, you settle. Now you own it. Now you can, at whatever pace you want, move your things from the old house to the new house. Some of the downside to this, obviously, is the fear of not being able to sell the house, but all of this depends on what market you're in. The market that we're in right now, you shouldn't have any problem with that. The hard part's finding a house. The easy part's selling a house. Now that's different in different markets. If you did this 15 years ago, then you'd be scared to do that because you'd be afraid you couldn't sell your house. Right now, you'll most likely be able to sell that house, so that shouldn't be a problem. Now, it's even possible to settle on these homes in the same day if you plan it right. Let's just say you go out and find a house that you'd like to buy. You put an offer on it and you're settling in 45 days. Now, if your house is ready to put on the market, it's very possible that we can put it on the market now, find a buyer, and settle that same day, so you're never owning 2 of these houses at the same time. Another thing to keep in mind, which could work to your favor, which is if you settle, let's say you settle in March, then your first payment isn't due until May. So you get that middle month off. So if you had to play the game where you're buying a house and you have to sell your house, you do have kind of a month buffer in between, so you don't have to pay that double payment, which is nice. But as I mentioned, something to keep in mind is that if you were to buy a house while still owning yours, you do run the risk of double payments at some point. But again, planned correctly, we can easily get past this. But that's the easiest way to do it. The second easiest way to do it is, if you can't qualify to do it that way, is to put your house on the market, find a buyer that's willing to settle with you, buy the home, and then rent it back to you. So in this scenario, again, you find a buyer, you settle, let's say at the end of next month, and they give you a 4-month rent back period to live in the house while you still look for another house. This way, again, you have the security of being at home. You're not, into a short-term rental. You don't have to move anything around. You're still in the house, but you're looking for another house. The plus to this is that you've already settled on the house. You've already collected the equity, so you're making offers that don't have any contingencies. You don't have to worry about selling the house because you've already done that technically, even though you're still living in it. So therefore, you can go out and make offers, and strong offers, on homes. The downside to doing it this way is it usually comes with some sort of a time frame. They're not just going to let you look forever. You might get 90 days, 120 days, 6 months, whatever the case may be, to find a house. So unfortunately, likely the clock is ticking. So when you look at this option, if you're very picky, if you're looking for something that's very unique, it might not come around in the next 6 months, and now you've got to go to plan B, which would be, get a rental or move in with family or whatever it is, because now, based on the time frame laid out in the contract that you did with the new owner, you've got to vacate. So that's the downside of that. Now, again, that's very specific with the kind of market that you're in. The strong market that we're in today, usually you can find someone to allow you to do that. So that is an option. Okay, if neither one of these are options, we go to option 3, which is put your house on the market, find a buyer, but with a home buying contingency. What I mean by that is, again, you put your house on the market, you find a buyer, you say to that buyer, okay, that sounds great, we'll go under contract, but I can't settle until I find a place to buy. Again, this comes with sort of a time frame at some point. Again, 90, 120, 6 months, whatever it is, whatever you can work out with that buyer. The downside to this way is that now you're out there, you're under contract with this buyer, and you're out there looking at houses. You're still making offers on that house with a home sale contingency, which is frowned upon these days, and mostly because of the market. Most of the time, another seller is going to be able to find a buyer that doesn't have that contingency. So that's certainly the downside of doing it that way. Now, when you get involved in that process, I always talk about the hurdles that are in front of you that will make it more difficult for you. For instance, if I just went on the contract with my buyer yesterday and I have not gone through any of the steps in terms of the under contract process, then it's very difficult for me to make offers on new houses because we haven't got through those hurdles yet. There's 3 big hurdles that you want to get through before you really start to make offers on other homes. That's your home inspection, to make sure that all goes smoothly and goes through. Your appraisal, make sure the house appraises for what your contract price states, because if it doesn't, you could have a problem. And the third one being their mortgage commitment for your buyer, showing that they've fully qualified now for this loan. Once you're through those steps, now if there's a home on the market, you have a better chance at that because you're already over those hurdles. You might not still get it again because you still have that home sale contingency. That's still there because you still have to settle on your home in order to purchase, but it just makes it a little bit easier. Another thing to keep in mind in those situations, it might not be a good idea to look at houses that are on the market for the first 3 and 4 days, because those houses likely will have offers, and offers from people that don't have those contingencies. So sometimes it's better to look at stuff that's been on the market for a week to 2. And it's still possible to find good buys there, because it's possible that they their house is completely fine. They've just overpriced it to begin with. So that's why they've been on the market for a little while. There might be some room for negotiation, and that all just might mesh together with your situation to help you get in there. So again, that's a decent way, not a great way, but that's number 3. Number 4 is just making an all-out offer with a home sale contingency. So your house might be on the market, it might not even be on the market. You find a potential home that you like to buy and you say to them, I'd like to buy your house, here's an offer, but I have to sell my house first. This is a very difficult way to do it, again, in this market, because like I said before, they're likely going to find other buyers that don't have that contingency. So you'd be at the bottom of the pile. If it's been on the market for 3 or 4 days, they're probably looking for another buyer. They probably will have another buyer come along that doesn't have these contingencies, which makes their offer more attractive than yours. All of these things depend on the offer as well. For instance, if you're $100,000 in cash over the next offer, they might be more likely to consider yours. But if everything else is pretty much equal, they're going to choose the one with less resistance, which is the one without those contingencies. So that's something to keep in mind, and that kind of gets in the way of your offer in these situations. So that's number 4. Number 5 is selling your house and moving into something short term, for instance, a rental or moving in with family. Obviously, this is very uncomfortable to have to move your things twice, possibly move some stuff into storage, and would be a real pain. However, in the grand scheme of things, to get from your house to your ultimate place that you want to be, this might be something that you're willing to do. Obviously, the pro to this way is that you've sold your house, you've collected the equity, and then now you've paid off that loan, so now you're making really strong offers on the next house. Obviously, the downside is the inconvenience of moving stuff around, possibly if you have kids, moving them into rentals or parents' house or whatever it might be. It can be a really difficult situation. So again, that way is not perfect, but it is a possible way to get to where you want to be. So that's your 5 ways. As I mentioned, if you have questions about any of these, if you'd like any more detail, if you'd like to discuss your actual situation, I'd be more than happy to talk with you at any point. Here's my number down low. But again, thanks for watching, and I'll talk with you soon.